Crestawald was a military installation embedded between the Roffler Gorge and the Rhinewald Pass. During World War II and the Cold War, this area was under strict military control. When the Second World War was on the horizon, Switzerland was already prepared. They dug themselves in deep into the mountains, which was called the Réduit, or in English, the redoubt strategy. This basically means that Switzerland would have been protected by two defensive lines, the red outline and in blue the core of Switzerland, which should have remained in the case of an attack. And in exactly this area we're gonna be exploring a fortress that was a military secret until 1995, the Crestawald Fortress. We're pretty close to the Italian border, which is the reason why this area is so heavily fortified. There was a crowd of people at the entrance of the fortress, that's why I'm showing you only a picture of the entrance area. A soldier recalls.
The password changed every day. Without the password, without the specific code word, it was impossible to enter the fortress after evening leave, impossible to get past a sentry. They were tough as nails, mainly towards officers from other units who wanted to visit the fortress. Many a man with thick and thin stripes on his hat was turned away. Red-faced. These were the little joys and pick-me-ups for a guard post.
What you're about to see shows just how extensive this place really is. Already it's about 15 degrees Celsius or 59 degrees Fahrenheit, and we're not even 50 meters inside solid granite. Right now we're ascending a steep staircase towards the ammunition storage chamber. And at this point, just imagine that this whole complex was built by hand only. What you see here is the engine of an American bomber that crashed in Switzerland like so many others. This former ammunition storage chamber is now used as an exhibition room, this room specifically for Swiss weapons of the Second World War and the Cold War area. Just a heads up for this segment specifically, I don't want to go too much into the historic context of Switzerland during World War II. I mainly want to focus on the structure of this fortress and the weapons used. Furthermore, the second ammunition storage chamber held a special exhibition on the Allied bombers that crashed in Switzerland, but sadly it was always pretty much crowded with people that I didn't want to film, so sadly this section isn't on camera. But if right now we're heading towards the main gun emplacement of the fortress. This is gun position Lucrezia, one of the two 10.5 cm fortress guns that formed the core of the entire Crestawald installation. Both gun positions of the fortress were equipped with the same 10.5 cm fortress gun 39L42. These were the heaviest weapons in the entire defensive complex, capable of engaging targets across multiple valleys. Operating these guns required an 8-man crew: gun commander, aimer, loader, breech operator, timer, 2 ammunition handlers and 2 ammunition carriers. An interesting fun fact: both cannons were ready for action a year before the fortress even was completed. The heavy ammunition had to be transported from the magazines using inclined lifts and ammunition elevators. Additional soldiers were required just for ammunition supply, moving shells, casings and fuses from the storage to the guns. But you're surely wondering how this defensive system worked. On this georeference map you can see the fortress Crestawald, its counter-fortresses and their shooting ranges portrayed in red, green and blue. These fortresses were built firstly to destroy their own infrastructure in the event of an invasion in order to stop the enemy, and secondly to destroy the enemy who had been stopped in the pocket. This was more or less the whole idea behind the Swiss redoubt strategy. From the outside, Lucretia blends perfectly into the Alpine landscape. In case you're wondering, the chains around the embrasure are a protection against attacks by hand grenades. The gun commander and aimer maintained constant contact with the fire control center through intercom systems, enabling rapid response to target assignments. The ammunition lift system could move 300 kilograms per trip. A full 10.5 cm shell weighed 15 kilograms, so each lift cycle could transport 20 shells from storage to the gun positions. The fortress could store 2,000 rounds of 10.5 cm ammunition for the main guns, plus 50,000 rounds of machine gun ammunition. Emergency reserves provided an additional 30 days of sustained combat operations. Each meter of tunnel required removing approximately 8 cubic meters of granite. The total excavation removed over 3,600 cubic meters of solid rock, all carried out by hand through that entrance we came through. Work began with basic tunneling in spring 1940. By October, the gun positions were operational, even though the complete facility wasn't finished until June 1941. Priority was given to making the weapon systems functional during the period of greatest threat. At its peak, 120 men worked around the clock in 3 shifts. The 2.8 million Swiss francs construction cost represents approximately 45 million francs in today's currency, a massive investment for a single defensive position. The fortress is protected by 15 to 40 meters of solid rock overburden. Critical areas have additional concrete protection 1.5 to 3 meters thick, reinforced with 180 tons of steel rebar. In the room behind you can see another ammunition storage chamber which houses the special exhibition on Allied bombers that crashed in the Alps, but sadly was a little bit overcrowded, so I didn't go inside. Or rather, I didn't film inside. Now we are about 100 meters higher than the entrance and we are heading to the second gun position. But first we're checking out the observation post and the former radio desk. A former soldier recalls.
We send Morse code and radio messages to other military units. Following a precise schedule, we use radio to locate foreign stations, despite strict prohibitions, and listen in on the radio to English conversations between American bomber pilots as they fly over the Grisons region on the north-south route and hear pop songs and shh cries from Germany. But fragments of conversations from German soldiers from some part of Europe also reach us via the radio waves.
This stairway leads to the observation post. From here, the Swiss defenders could see for miles. And this is where they watched and waited. And this is how this observation post looks from the outside. Just a rock. Crestawald was one of 15 major Alpine fortresses in Switzerland's national redoubt. It coordinated with 12 smaller defensive positions throughout the Rhine valleys, creating a comprehensive defensive network. The position controlled three major valley approaches: the Rheinwald Pass route, the Roffler Gorge Passage and the secondary mountain trails. Any major movement through this region came under observation and potential fire. These are machine gun positions, providing close defense and supporting the outer defensive ring and counterworks throughout the Crestawald Valley. Swiss forces used the MG-11 machine gun, firing the standard Swiss 7.5mm rifle cartridge 11. This provided logistical simplicity, the same ammunition used by infantry rifles. This is a permanently installed machine gun, not portable weapon. The fixed mounting provided maximum stability and accuracy while protecting the weapon from the elements. Right now it's aiming at the highway, which wasn't there in the 40s. The exact number of machine gun positions in the area remains classified, but multiple installations created interlocking fields of fire covering all approach routes to the fortress. In 1974, the original MG-11 weapons were replaced with the more modern MG-5180, maintaining the same 7.5mm caliber but with improved reliability and performance. Gun Position Sylvia, the second of crestawald's twin 10.5 cm fortress guns, identical to Lucrezia in capability but positioned to cover different approach routes. Sylvia's 17-kilometer practical range allowed it to engage targets well beyond the immediate valley, covering multiple approach routes and supporting positions throughout the region. Like Lucrezia, Sylvia required the same 8-man crew structure. The gun commander directed operations while the aimer handled target engagement using data from the fire control center. Steel shells, smoke incendiary, illumination rounds. Both guns used identical ammunition. The steel shells were primary anti-personnel and anti-vehicle rounds, while smoke incendiary created area denial effects. The complex ammunition supply system included magazine storage, mechanical lifts and manual transport teams. Moving the heavy 10.5 cm shells required coordinated effort from multiple personnel. Sylvia looks different from the outside than Lucrezia. The embrasure is disguised as a rock. Well, both embrasures can be disguised as such. Here, the dead would have been temporarily stored. We go back downstairs to see the rest of the fortress, for example the living quarters, workshop, kitchen and so on. Just in case you wondered, this on the left side of the stairs is an ammunition lift that I mentioned so many times before. The normal peacetime garrison of 15 men could expand to 25 during full mobilization. Food storage provided 90 days of full rations, with emergency supplies extending that to 120 days under rationing. Beyond food, the fortress stored medical supplies for major casualties, spare parts for all weapon systems, and maintenance equipment for the facility itself. Self-sufficiency was the key design requirement. Of course, the fortress had its own hospital and medical team. This is the hospital room, including the field altar. We go up to the quarters of the officers and senior NCOs. From my point of view, having served in the Swiss Army myself, it looks exactly the same as a normal Swiss barracks. The only difference is that here everything is hidden inside a mountain. The ventilation system moves 2,400 cubic meters of air per hour through the facility. Manual backup systems ensure air circulation even during power failures or gas attacks. The fortress maintained 25,000 liters of water storage, enough for the full garrison for 45 days under rationing. Emergency diesel generators provided backup power for critical systems, including communications and ventilation. Here we can have a look at the heart of the facility, the diesel generators and workshops. A former soldier recalls.
2 large diesel engines provide light, heating, fresh air and oxygen. The cramped conditions, the constant cohabitation with no escape, no opportunity to just be yourself for a short while, to be a little bit alone, is unbearable for many, makes them nervous, wears on their nerves. All this is compounded by the monotonous noise of the ventilation system, mainly at night. The constant rising and falling sound of the fresh air supply. There is rumbling, swearing, complaints and protests. Captain Ruedi announces during the main roll call. From now on, the ventilation in the bedrooms will be turned off from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. 40 pairs of marching boots in one room. 40 pairs of sweaty socks. Wet, sweaty clothes mixed with the odor and farts of 40 soldiers in one bedroom. An incredibly indefinable stench brews. Takes over the entire dormitory. You gasp for air. After 2 nights, the ventilation system and fresh air supply are back in full operation. The monotonous hum becomes music.
Now we're having a look at the kitchen and later on the quarters of the ordinary soldiers. A former soldier recalls.
We don't.
With my assignment to Fortress Artillery Company 41, I am also subject to the daily orders of this unit. With my bags and baggage, I share my cramped quarters with gunners, telephone operators and fortress infanterists. Crammed into 2 dormitories, officers' quarters and infirmaries, the Crestawald Fortress accommodates around 80 to 90 people during active duty. Cooking is done electrically in tipping kettles, and meals are eaten in the crew canteen. The officers have a separate sleeping room. We sleep in our clothes on a seaweed mattress. Each man has one woolen blanket. In the morning, we queue up to wash and do our business.
Now we are heading back to the exit. We have seen everything important except for the fire control center and the post office. Both rooms were inaccessible on this day and at this time due to maintenance work. Have you ever seen a fortress just like this one? Let me know in the comments. From this side we can see once again the gun embrasure of the guard guarding the entrance of the fortress. Now we're heading back out, but we're not done yet. We're gonna be having a look at the fortress from the outside. Compared to other World War II fortifications, Crestawald was more sophisticated than Finnish defensive lines, but smaller than major German West Wall bunkers. The design philosophy was similar to the French Maginot Line forts: maximum firepower from minimal garrison. The final military exercise here took place in September 1994. Decommissioning required 6 months and cost 1.2 million Swiss francs. Much of that expense involved safely removing ammunition and sensitive equipment. Since 1996, Crestawald has been maintained as a historical monument. Annual maintenance costs 45,000 Swiss francs, primarily for structural preservation and safety systems. The site receives 500 to 800 educational visitors per year. And finally, we get a beautiful side-by-side comparison of Sylvia on the upper side and Lucrezia a little bit further down. And looking uphill, we can see the observation post beautifully disguised as a rock. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please let me know what can be improved and also what you like to see next time. Just write it down in the comments. Your like and subscription is highly appreciated. Thank you so much, have a wonderful week and see you next time.